And also we can see many universities around the world, especially universities in United States, their funding structure is mostly the students' fees, right? So they're most like a private university. But occasionally in Europe, many universities are public university, or Japan or Korea. There are national universities. This is not very kind of analytic kind of a positioning. It's my kind of intuitive positioning of the universities. Some of the universities that we consider to be similar, there are TU Delft. It's a Holland University, belongs to engineering technology university, but their size is huge. So in terms of size, we are very different. And also, the Berlin University or Loughborough University has roots in engineering, traditional kind of sense of engineering. So that's why I happened to study in Brunel University in UK for a long time ago. As a kind of, I thought that it could be similar. So still, that's the kind of positioning of our department, which means we are very small. To give you more idea, so we have 14 tenure track professors, which means we have 14 labs. So each lab has a special topics. We subdivided into 3 groups. But some research labs is very much focused on color and psychology, Kansei engineering. Some labs are much more focusing on service design, very practical UI, UX design, or robotics, or making design tools. So, but in addition, research professor, and retired professors. And so in total, we have about 30 staff members. 1/3, 2/3 are academic staff members, but half of them are tenure track professors. Okay, so that's our rough size, which is not that big. Smallest actually department which has undergraduate, master's, and PhD program in KAIST. But nobody ignores me because we are doing quite well in KAIST. We survived. Alumni. So we have about 150 students total. Half of them, about 100, so 180 is altogether to do with the design undergrads. And about 80 professor advise, and then they run a government funding projects or research projects. So far, we have about 1,265, or a bit more than that, alumni. And our alumni is now became very top position in a big company. So LG Electronics, Samsung Electronics, the vice president, which is a Busa, we have 2. They started as a designer, but now they're in charge of the division called customer experience. So and also strategy, planning. So they're not just focusing on design. They're dealing with the big issues in a big company. At the same time, we also have other educators. We have so many professors around the world. We have professors in TU Delft, University of Cincinnati, and there are so many alumni there. We have many people who work in Silicon Valley, and also we have a professor in Seoul National University, and also in our department, where many of our alumni work for our department. And also some alumni open a new company, startups, and they become quite successful. So, but in general, those are the figures. So as I said, as a professor, I'm a director of a lab. So I run a lab called CIDR lab, which is a bit difficult to pronounce, but I just kind of happened to use this name in the end because the lab that I was studying in my PhD program in Brunel was the Interaction Design Research Lab. So my research was more to do with the co-design. So I added a collaborative or co-design together with the interaction. So interaction design and co-design is my topic of research since I joined at KAIST. But I divided those names into 4 keywords that I'm interested in. So I'm kind of playing with those keywords as a part of my research. But I started my career at KAIST now quite a long time ago, 2001, which means even 1 year before this school was started. So I've been working for KAIST for 23 years. So since then, topic has changed as the industry changes, the atmosphere has changed. But overall, my topic has been kind of wide perspective. Still, I'm very much interested in designing smart interactive products and systems. To do that, I often make design tools and think about design methods, and also design-led innovation. Those are 3 topics that I'm interested in, which is very wide. So a long time already. So which, as I said, I spent 2 hours actually. So I mixed a bit of introductory section as well as introduce what I've done in my lab. So a lot of work is part of our research work together with my PhD students and master students for a long period of time. But before I introduce a bit of kind of history of design. As from a professor with an industrial design background. So if I look back 100 years in the industrial design, we often kind of industrial design starting from Industrial Revolution and Bauhaus. So there has been many heroes or leaders and mentors in our industrial design field. So such as the Walter Gropius, the Bauhaus, the first Bauhaus, and Raymond Loewy was considered to be first most famous industrial designer in the United States. So he actually introduced the importance of design for business. And then Henry Dreyfus, so economics, so design for people. And Charles and Ray Ames, so they experimented with a lot with design, with technology, and how technology can influence design. And Dieter Rams, leading Brown, and they experiment with the form without the clue of what they do. So design and electronics. Meantime, there was a revolutions in IT, so computer technology was invented, and early pioneers like Douglas Engelbart, which invented the mouse and GUI, and Apple adopted those techniques, right, through Xerox. And then this new idea of interaction design, human-computer interaction, kind of and then design with engineering with Dyson, and also Bill Moggridge made the term called interaction design. And Sony also had influenced a lot in industrial design. And then Apple. So then after Apple, we were confused whether we are designing industrial design or interaction design. So before smartphone came, there are 700 designers in Samsung designed the feature phone, but now everybody is designing user interface because the form factor is now same. So the paradigm is a lot of change, but still we use other everyday goods or medical products, which has characteristics like Dyson product or Henry Dreyfus products and cars and trains and things like that. So design has expanded so widely so that we have to know how the society changes and technology changes when we study design. That's something that we should know. But for me, as I said, I was starting my design career as 1986 as a first student of ID KAIST. So which means I drew like I was experiment lab rat. So my professor was experiment with me a lot. So teaching this thing, and then I was like a puppy. And those are the time that the new personal computer came. So I was so puzzled that I didn't know what design is at that time. So, but I found some subjects that was interesting to me, and also so many things to study, which was computer-related things. So these are some this is an animation that I made in 1989 as my first job was making computer graphics animation for a commercial film, which was a Budweiser. So this was a long time ago. So I almost tempted to go that direction as my future career. So even before Pixar was made, so Toy Story was made. So I found that this new interesting fields like computer graphics animation was so exciting, and I have fall in love with visual media and movies and things like that. But after graduating 1 year later, my professor informed me that, oh, we have a new master program starting now, so you should apply. So, okay, I became the first master student of our program again. And then those are the time that the new concept of human-computer interaction emerged. And then my advisor, one of the advisors was doing this car navigation project in early 90s. So I was more like a first generation of doing these UI UX projects. And then that topic was so interesting, but still I was very interested in technology and design. And then I happened to find this program at Brunel University and get the PhD study there. There was only 1 or 2 PhD program around the world that I could find. And even early adopter of internet, so I searched the internet and then found this interaction design research lab in Brunel. And there I did my PhD and found a field called computer-human interaction field. And there are some organization, ACM, has big community called SICAI. So I attended that conference and I saw the work of MIT Media Lab, and it was fascinating, and I felt that this was my topic. But nobody had a design background. So I had to teach myself how to get involved in this research community as a part of my study. So my research project at that time was computer-supported collaborative design, which is how computer can support design together with other designers, other engineers. So I published my paper in design studies in early 2001 as a part of my PhD. So I finally have my paper in prestigious design journals at that time. That was the first journal paper from Korean at that time. And then I got the job at the university in UK, which is called University of Wales Institute Cardiff. Now they call it Cardiff Metropolitan University. I worked there for 2 years. And then they asked me to teach some courses titled Information Economics, which is if you design vending machines or portable devices, sometimes it's not only you have to design the form, but you have to think about the information flow inside of the device, which is HTCI interaction design. But they called it information economics. I had to design new tools for that because the university was not very rich. So I started to make these design tools and methods for teaching. So this was the early tools that I used, the PowerPoint and broken keyboard to make a hybrid hardware and software functional prototype. Because in design, if you don't make a working prototype, sometimes you cannot imagine what you're designing for, right? So you have to imagine the future experience of your design. So that's why I brought this component and then used many new technologies like physical computing, augmented reality, and also work with many researchers in computer science and also many engineering professors in electronic and mechanical engineering. So because of this kind of exposure, I had a kind of confidence that even if I don't know the technology very well, I don't have any concerns. So I can just kind of accept it and then learn new technology quite easily, even if we don't know very detail. So that's my career. So some of the projects, this is one of the recent projects that we usually do in our lab. This is actually work of my master students. Now he is working as a PhD student. About the time he graduated, he made this device, and then he published this work in a conference called the DIS conference, Design Interactive System, one of the prestigious ACMC Kai, and also this work get the awards from IF Design Awards. So basically, this is a small finger-like a robot arm to transform traditional environment into IoT environment. So work is, as I said, has two achievements. First one was award. First IF Design Awards. It was recognized as a good design piece of work from International Design Organization. And secondly, this work has been accepted as a very prestigious conference paper. So those conference paper is very tough to get in. Even computer science professors cannot publish well, which is a DIS conference. So there is a format called the DIS pictorial, which introduces how design is being made. All this work is working. So we design the software, and we design the hardware, and we design the movement. So of course, there are some bits which is not really what's happening. Sometimes you need those skills. So, and it takes time. It is really a challenge. You have to be able to understand technology easily, technology quickly, and also you have to do new area. You have to challenge new areas such as electronics or programming or a lot of deep engineering, mathematics, and so on. So that's a real challenge. And if you show this level and then integrate as a one good piece of harmonized design, then it really impacts people. And you cannot, you can get a respect from other colleagues. So that's some strategy that we do. But of course, this is a one work, and there are other labs also doing this level of work. But what I'm sometimes believe is that hockey player, so the good hockey player plays where the puck is, but great hockey player plays where the puck is going to be, right? So fortunately, I was this kind of thinking about how the position of the puck in the technology sometime before every time the new technology emerged. So that was to do with the CAD and computer graphics and web and user interface and internet, and also physical computing and augmented reality. So I always looking for where the technology is heading, technology puck is heading. So that is actually the young generation should think about, right, for their future. But in 2013, I've seen this movie because I really like Spike Jonze. I don't know how many of you have seen this movie? Some of you. So this is the movie about a man who falls in love with operating system, right? So AI. He really seriously falls in love with AI, and then shows how this romantic relationship develops. And he works for the company called beautifulhandwrittenletters.com. It's an imaginary company. It's a really kind of a mix of technology and emotional aspect is combined together. So I sometimes get inspiration from these sort of movies or novels to get my ideas of design. So about 10 years ago, when I saw this movie, it will be a really long future. So that can it be happening, right? Now, same year, I'm not sure whether you watch Black Mirror series, right? So Black Mirror series, there is a new series came out. And the same year, there was an episode called Be Right Back. This is an interesting, also this kind of very uncomfortable story about your boyfriend is kind of going out and get an accident, and then he's dead, right? And then it's about a service to revive his boyfriend. So these stories sometimes experimented and mentioned in the design field too, which is called critical design in the past. Now people call it speculative design. So this field is being pioneered by RCA professors. Now he's in US, in Parsons, and Julian Rabi. So in this book, they mention this Black Mirror series as a kind of imagining future, sometimes utopian future, sometimes dystopian future. So in this movie, so this is a short clip. So first service was chatting with your dead boyfriend, and then the dead boyfriend asking, how can I have a better service? And this boyfriend had a lot of SNS, so uploaded all the SNS clips to the service, and then make a phone call. So you can have a conversation with your dead boyfriend, right? So there is still more stories to come, so I'm not gonna give you further details, but if you're interested you can watch the full episode, right? There are much more interesting stories coming on. But the problem is, this was 10 years ago, and now this is what's happening in Korea in a very bad way. We have these days the criminals get your voice phone call. So in our the Galaxy phone, there is a feature always you get a recording of your conversation. So if you have a conversation with your children, that is auto-saved if you turn on. And then if a hacker gets those voice and then download illegally and then analyze, they can call with your children's voice, right? And then use it as a phishing. This is what's happening. So already this kind of technology is kind of happening is very in a bad way. So I also have another kind of encounters of how these technologies so quickly is being introduced to our everyday life. So last year, December, ChatGPT was launched. So I knew GPT before because I will introduce, because I was using it as a part of my research. Because I was thinking that this new AI technology is influencing us for designers. But last December, ChatGPT came, and I teach this electronics, Arduino coding. This Arduino coding can be done by ChatGPT. I was shocked. And now, many people think about that because of ChatGPT, now we have to do something called to ask well, then ChatGPT can do many things for us. But now, there are another ChatGPT which does a prompt modeling. So this agent GPT service is making another agent to give a prompt modeling to ChatGPT so that you can do all the things. So if, for example, I want to do marketing report for something, then it will first make all the prompt modeling and then finally make all the tasks that you do. So which is really evolving. This is just happening just only 6 months. So because it is the speed of this technology is so quick. So sometimes this could be year 2023 could be something new. If you look back, like when we first encountered the smartphone in 2007, 2008, 9, when iPhone first came, we didn't know that how will influence us, like a Facebook or Instagram influence us. But now this is the year, I think, that we have to prepare the new era of all the fields. So it makes me wonder, what should I, a designer, design researcher, educator, prepare for the future? Probably it will, about in 2 or 3 years, maybe we will see many different words, considering the speed of change. So, but I don't have an answer, but that I just look back what I've done, and then maybe I just want to share what I thought. There are something that haven't changed yet. So when I first started design, I didn't that design is draw beautiful drawings. I was being told that it's beyond making pretty shapes. It's much more about creating experience. So creating holistic products or service experience that delivers happiness for people, to make people happy. So this is my definition of design, creating things that make people happy. So I still think that this is not changed. And then many of my 후배, the Samsung, LG, they're in charge of a customer experience division in big companies. So still it's very valuable. And I think this is the one thing that our designers should consider. Another thing, very important thing, is these 3 pillars of people, technology, and business. So we often call it trifecta of innovation. And designers should consider these 3 pillars, right? So those things haven't changed. So then if we see new words from different technology, how can we experiment, or how should we consider these new things? So I have 2 prospects, right, based on some of the things that I've done. So first one is we have to, in charge of technology embedded design, sometimes we have to design products with the technology. So for example, if we have products with AI, how should we design? That's something that we designers has to consider. I often call it as a augmented design, design as a norm. So open design is considered word as a norm. And another part is technology-empowered design. So some technology can influence design. So maybe technology can leverage technology to design more effectively, design better. So I often call it augmented design as a verb. So that's why my research area is called augmented design. Not just because I have been using augmented reality technologies a lot to make new tools. So like Vision Pro in Apple, I've been experimenting those about, when I first came to KAIST, I used augmented reality a lot, like AR tools. But I use it as a kind of a, more like a philosophical terms, the augmented design as a subject area of design. So first, a little bit kind of introduce what I approach this technology embedded design. So what will be the future of technology embedded design systems? Have you thought about that? So what will be the future? Many people think that it's like Boston Dynamics or kind of humanoid robots, but we've been thinking about future, more like a possible model of a future intelligent products could be pets. What I mean pets is much more about functionally useful pets, like a guide dogs. So guide dogs actually is a navigator, but also have a real emotional relationship with the owner. There are many animals like this in the past, dogs or Rudolph, and many models like this. So these days in Korea, the pet culture is widespread. So many pets in Korean home. So I was thinking that if you have a good understand the relationship between the owner and the pet, or owner or horse, then maybe it will guide how the technology should have or should be developed. So we have this project about 10 years ago. It's called the PC camera. It works like a pet, a small character. So it is not just a PC camera. It behaves like a small character pet that lives with me on the desk all the time. But sometimes it lives underneath digitally, but also comes up physically so that it lives in a mixed reality world. We are reviving this project again recently for another context. So, but the behavior of these PC camera, we call it Cami, can behave like a pet. So she actually did a PhD project with this topic. Another experiment that we did was things with a self or things with a mind. How things have their own independent minds. So it's a product, but their thinking is like human. So we designed this new social robots, kind of sitting on the lobby. Basically, this is a robot that checks the temperature during the COVID period. But temperature, the users engage with the robot. But interesting thing about this robot is this robot has thinking. So he writes a diary of their mind and then upload in a service. And then people can watch what this robot is thinking. So this is the system. So he or she interacts with the people every day. And then sometimes in a rainy day, sometimes they have this device meets many people, and then he writes a story about his experience. And this was a time that we used the ChatGPT-2, the pre-ChatGPT. We found that this new general intelligence library is introduced And then we saw the potential, and then we choose this as, how about thing can write a diary based on their sensing data, and then upload it in a service so that people can see like other data, right? And then we studied that how people treat this social robot, and they consider not only as a robot, but also they consider as a social being living in a lobby. So we put it into a further, and we now put it into air purifier, sit in a home, so that this device actually writes a diary on the surface. So if you tap, then it shows the diary on the surface, so that like parents kind of secretly watch your children's diary in a drawer, like that's happening. So it actually functions as an air purifier. It expands, like it shows living things, but at the same time, it displays diary contents as if he has a consciousness or mind. So we also published this work in DIS this year, and actually presenting next week in Pittsburgh. And then we are thinking of studying change with this device, and we study, and then maybe we plan to publish another paper based on this device. This is a kind of mix of design work and research, how the future will be like using design skills. So this is the diagram, shows that how we made this. This was, we made many IT technologies, the front end, the back end, and then used the GPT library before ChatGPT was introduced. So when we talk about the future of intelligent systems, Donald Norman mentioned in his book, so he was envisioning the graceful symbiosis of people and technology, like a horse and horse rider. So that if you can manage a horse well, then probably this technology would be very kind of control. So he was using this metaphor as a way to envision better human-computer interaction. But I see that sometimes this would be future of how we accept intelligent systems could be in our life. The second part is that the system can program now. So if you make a brief kind of user interface screenshots, then the system can make a program for you. And this video was almost like 6 years old, so which means in engineering design is even worse. So if you set the parameters and goals, the engineering design is done. So it is not about our design field, it's all design fields are facing or should prepare the new future of what they do. This is the project done by Philip Stock. Philip Stock was using AI or Autodesk technology, and then make a new chair, and then sell it with Cartel. There's a premium furniture company. It was shown in Italy, Milan Design Show, right? So it is hybrid of what you design and what computer design together, and most kind of exciting form, right? In our lab, so we've been also making new type of tools. So this is another educational tool that we design a lot of kinetic mechanisms, and only the kinetic tools are available for the mechanical engineering field. So we made these new tools that you can design this mechanism very easily. One of the interesting part is when you design mechanism, you start with the bars, and then you predict the trajectories of what the bar makes. But we made this new approach that you draw the shape, and then roughly the system make a rough bar length instantly. And then if you adjust, then you can make your final shape. So even if it is not perfect, then we use some kind of top-down approach so that you sketch and then tools can design for you. So this is available actually, if you want to use, if you connect this website and then register, then actually you can use for your teaching. So there are many high school or university is using this as a part of their educational project. So for example, if you draw mechanism, and then this is a Janssen mechanism to make a robot, and then it will produce laser cut drawing so that you can, using laser cut, you can make that physical hardware as you test it. So some universities are using this tool. So because sometimes we don't have these tools, we have to kind of do the research and then make these own tools for do another type of research in design. This is another type of tools that we designed. This is also part of a PhD work. So in this case, is not only about the subject of hardware, we have to consider the space and people, multiple people, and how the multiple people is using mobile phone, and then space altogether. So we made this, we call it sometimes this kind of product, service, and systems design to visualize without physically making is extremely difficult. So we made this new tool so that we can envision customs. So if you visit this website, then there are manuals and also some details. A little bit complicated, but I mean, this is the tool for service design. So we've been developing this kind of research prototype and also made it available for others to use as a really a part of their design work. In design ideation too, this is another research work that we did using pre-ChatGPT. So we collected all the design award data and then trained AI system so that if you type a certain topics like a chair, then AI system gives you text that inspires that new type of chair. Use AI system as like a design inspiration. So we call it idea squares, and then this work was presented in DRS conference last year. So this is the change. Then what I see is then what should we do as a designer? So I have three ideas, three models. These are the three models that I'm thinking. The first is film director, toolmaker, and aesthetics judge. The first is a director-like designer. So many projects now need a good film director-like a role, is an orchestrator, but not necessarily you have human designers. But you sometimes the human actors and synthetic actors, which is the AI system, to create a practical, elegant solution for complex problems. So this is another project I briefly introduced last year online presentation, and during the COVID period, I was heavily involved in this project because our KAIST somehow involved in this negative pressure world design project and directly kind of requested by the Korean government. And I happened to become a director of this this huge project and managing a lot of companies and also engineering experts. Fortunately, finally, I got a lot of so many good design awards and also recognitions from the press. This is of you who first time see.
In the sudden infectious disease crisis like COVID-19, it is critical to supply negative pressure isolation rooms at the appropriate time for patients and medical staff. CARE NCM is a mobile expandable negative pressure ward equipped with advanced medical facilities. With its rapid installation, it can supply functional and economical medical facility. It also provides ease of use and emotional satisfaction to medical staff and patients. The main components of CARE NCM are frame, functional panel, and the most important.
This is a technology that I initially initiated and also worked with other engineering to actually realize this technology. And we did some engineering tests together with the engineering experts in the field, fluid dynamics. And we tested in a real hospital in a multiple place. So the down one is actually demo system. The first one is actually used in a hospital during COVID period. And the second year, we actually tested it in a gym, in a gym setting. So we, with a local council in Gyeonggi-do in Korea, we actually installed this system for the actually hospital. We transformed the gym into a hospital. So this is a short video clips that transforming gym into hospital. There had to be electricity and medical gas and water supply, wastewater treatment, and so on. So there are user interface at the end, and all the user interface, the system is, there's never been this kind of project. So in the beginning, KAIST president and government officers, the experts from Ministry of Science, was about me, because I was an industrial design professor. They're spending a lot of money to in charge of this project, and then first part was only run through 6 months. Within 6 months, we had to show this is possible and create a completely new. So fortunately, we did. I don't know how I did it. The timing, and at that time was a COVID period, and then everybody was concerned about that. And then in Korea was really treating very well. We haven't done any lockdown at all in Korea during COVID period. And by the time that we introduced, that was the most peak time that the severely ill patients, because of in Seoul, there's only 4 beds remaining. And then we introduced, a lot of press was very interested in. So this level of projects, I searched for many experts whether they can manage this level of projects, but I think that designers is a good experts to manage this level of complexity and managing a lot of different things. Like, as I said, orchestrating a lot of people, a lot of components all together. So I got some little confidence because of these projects, so that, oh, this is the future role of designers. Maybe if somebody can be in charge, maybe not only just we talk about design-led innovation, this is a type of design project that all the countries should do. So now the designers, what we are doing is the planning. So you have to ask the right question and make a good decision, and also talking to other people, communication. But technology is now creating design alternatives and concretizing. like visualizing, right? So Midjourney or Lexica. So if we have these balanced role, then still designers have so many things, exciting things to do. So you don't have to worry. The second is, as I said, as a tool designer, as I introduced, sometimes if you do new things, you have to make your own tool. So I introduced a pet design, right? So this is a part of her research work, is a pet-morphic design we coined. And then if you make a system more pet-like, then how you can do it is we made this pet-morphic design guide as a design method, as a guidebook. We M-Sketch system. Now we transform this M-Sketch system as a tool maker for the education system. So we recently presented this at KAIST conference, and another short video. This is the part that you draw, and then bar is automatically adjusted. The physical scale is shown in the iPad so that you can cut exact lengths so that you can transform the virtual mechanism into real mechanism. So this is not actually design tools, but we started as a design tool, and then we are now exhibiting in a big department store in Korea, 신세계 백화점, which is owned by Samsung. And then we are making this as an educational system so that the teachers can use for the elementary school students so that they can learn engineering together with art in elementary school, so that we are planning to make this all customizable, so 3D printable, so that only cheap part can be assembled, so that all the parts are the straws and 3D printable parts, so that maybe this can be also used around the world. So last part is, I think is the most important part, is now we are reaching to the final phase. So, I usually use this as a part of my teaching material for our students. But I think this most important part is designing with the aesthetic sensation. So now, as I said, that this aesthetic judge is the designer should in charge. So I think it's really important to have good mind and good ethical ideas, ethical minds for designers, like a circular economy and so on, so that the designer plays so important, role is so important, because that judge or making decision is done by influential designers. So the important thing is understanding the quality and the principles of a good design. So my ultimate question all the time is what makes a good design? What makes a good design research? what makes my life happy and things like that. So that's usually my philosophical question. But in terms of design, it always asks me, what makes a good design? So now recently, I'm coming up with 5 principles. So maybe you can find the Dieterham's 10 principles, but I come up with these 5 principles. It's actually based on the Paul Hacker's idea, but I mean, I combined and evolved it. There's 5 principles. So I don't know. I mean, if you have a better other additional principles, then let me know. I'll just briefly show one by one. So first principle is minimum effect for maximum effect for minimum means. So this is a design called a paper fuse. So maybe it's a medical device, centrifuge, so dividing blood cells, but using this paper spinning toy mechanism, direction and the amount of wind, right? So the same design, but with minimum